Welcome to the Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Jojo, and this is where we will navigate the mess together. That is mental, emotional, and spiritual. Let's get messy. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So today I'm with Amanda Baker. She's been a therapist for over a decade, a yoga psychology teacher, and a poet since she was 7. She's also the creator of the brand and podcast, You Amaze Me. And here's what I've loved about speaking with her and getting to know her. She believes that no one is broken and no one needs fixing. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let's get messy. Amanda, when you and I first spoke, I asked you what was something that you noticed in yourself or something that's been on your mind lately. And you said this concept of striving to always be amazing and also working hard to stay amazing. And that brought me to that perfectionism culture that we're like living in right now. And I feel like everything that we see online, it like needs to be perfect, air quotes around perfect. And we're working so hard on ourselves to like stay in this perfectionism culture. So I've been throwing this idea around with myself a lot lately, and I'd really love to hear your thoughts about this and how you personally navigate it.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you. I love kind of the threads that you can pull out of things that we've talked about, even just in our short time knowing each other. And as you were talking, the first thing that came to me, well, two things. First, to emphasize the very recent realization of, my logo of You Amaze Me, or brand You Amaze Me, that I've ended pretty much every caption on social media, every email that I write, for the past 5 years, really since COVID, in the sense of looking at the amazement in other people, not from a place of perfectionism. Just I can so easily see their messy like beauty. And then what was so recent for me was, do I recognize the amazement in myself? Which then led to, yes, though I'm constantly striving to be amazing, as if what's already there is not enough. And
Oh,
so, yes. And so even with that, the second thing is I try to be perfect at being imperfect, because I know, right? Like for our mental health and our well-being and just in our humanness, logically, I know we're not perfect. No one is. It's an impossible standard to reach. Yet what is so deeply imprinted, I almost feel it like in my cells and DNA, is this sense of do it perfectly, because that's connected to my worthiness, to approval, to validation, to success. And I know that's come outside, like from messages outside of me, but it gets imprinted so early on that even in attempts to undo that, the perfectionism comes out in being imperfect, which is just a funny
yeah.
thing to realize. And I think it's very relatable for so many people.
How do you split the two apart? Because you said two very key things there. You said, this is something that I'm always, signing off on emails and trying to see in myself that, like, what is the amazing in me already? But then that perfectionism, like, where is the balance and also the disconnect? Because while we're striving to be perfect and amazing and, top what we've already done, I don't think that's a healthy mindset to live in. And then you also just
Mhm.
said being, you know, imperfect and striving to be imperfect. So there's kind of not saying that you're contradicting yourself, but there's a contradiction or a duality in that I think is really interesting. And
Mhm.
and how do we kind of separate the two and self-accept and know that this is okay?
Mm.
Do you know what I'm like trying to get to? Because it's such a it's such a duality and a paradox that is wildly confusing, even just like thinking about it.
Yes, yes. And I think that's sometimes where we get stuck, because we're full of contradictions. We we are our own hypocrites, and we're full of these paradoxes that maybe subconsciously we don't even realize are constantly in a state of tension with
Hmm.
each other. And so bringing that to awareness, one, I think, is like the first step. Can I name these contradictions without them fighting, without one needing to win or be right over the other?
There's this mind body connection that I think we we struggle with, where it's like deeply ingrained in our body, but our mind fights it. Can you
Mhm.
address that as someone who, you know, has the psychology background, but also a yoga background, and how like that somatic system kind of unfurls?
Sure. Yes. And I think more and more in my own like expansion, evolution, healing journey and working with others as a mental health clinician that learned early on, like to diagnose. And
Mhm.
even in that sense, so much of it is the mind. Does a person meet this criteria? The talk based therapy. And so more and more of that, I've come one to realize the importance of the body and the integration of the two. We've kind of gone away from maybe traditional talk therapy into somatic based therapy. But again, now here's these contradictions. Oh no, we're
Mhm.
no longer going to do talk therapy. Now we're just going to work on the body. Whereas again, we need both. And moving towards the harmony to like reduce that gap. And at least for me in my experience, the way to start to reduce that gap is to slow down the thinking, because I think it's our thinking that ultimately is the disorder. Our thoughts want to know, they want to
Yeah.
figure out, it wants to be certain, it wants the understanding, it wants the analysis. And it's like if I don't attach thought to it, to what I'm experiencing in my body. So even if we used perfectionism or imperfectionism, what happens in the body when you're perfect, when you're
Mhm.
imperfect? What signals are coming internally to start there? Because we'll name, oh, I'm striving to be perfect. Well, what's happening in the body before I jump to a conclusion even?
Yeah. I think the spiraling thoughts and the overanalysis and
Mhm.
like, it just always, you know, zooming in on something and yeah, the overthinking. I mean, that's definitely something that I've always like struggled with, and just kind
Mhm.
of going in that downward spiral. I know meditation, you know, is a practice that a lot of people say, "Oh, you should try this." But for me, as someone who hasn't necessarily tapped into the meditation realm as much as I probably need to or should, what like how do you get out of those spirals? How do you get out of like those those traps that we sort of find ourselves in constantly?
Yeah, and it's been a long process because I started too with meditation and had a lot of resistance to it. I don't know how to
Mm,
meditate. I'm not meditating perfectly and
yeah.
right, and this is uncomfortable. And even still in meditation, I'll go into thinking. And this has been just radically confrontational for me in a very like appreciative way that my thinking is a way that I dissociate. My thinking is a way that um, I'll get high almost because I realize,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I love thinking, and thinking is a way that I'll fantasize. I like do that over visualization, and so I would meditate, or I would even go to sound baths where you're listening to the beautiful singing bowls for an hour, and I was like, that was lovely. I enjoyed that, and then I'm like, wait a second, I was thinking and fantasizing the whole like
Oh,
majority of the
wow.
time. Yes. So um, and maybe, for some who can get into it, and it's still a process for me to go into those things where I'm not thinking. Uh, and so for some where maybe they're similar, the overthinking meditation feels like it doesn't work, I've had to simplify instead of meditating for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's a pause and
Mhm.
it's a breath and it's stillness. So it's maybe 30 seconds catching myself when I'm indecisive, doubtful, analyzing a conversation, preparing for a conversation, which a lot of that is from a fear orientation. How am I going to sound on this podcast? Let me think about what I'm going to say. And
Right.
it amazes me now to be like, I can show up here and I didn't think at all about really what I was going to talk about. And that's a shift. That is progress because then I'm living more presently,
Mm.
but it's a practice of noticing when that's happening, pausing, grounding, noticing my feet, breathing and interrupting, perhaps with a question. How may I be most useful for myself and others I care about right now?
Mm. One of my favorite quotes is consciousness is everything.
Mm,
And it's from this man, the Rav Berg. I mean, you can unpack this quote however you want, but it really
sure.
the underlying message is like presence, at least to
Yes.
me. And when you address presence and you stop getting out of your head of what am I going to say and oh I wanted to do on this and it's like
Hmm.
how can you actually show up more authentically? And I think to kind of dive into that perfectionism world that we're in of like AI and everything is like, dare I say, boring when I'm seeing these like AI characters in the social medias of the world, in the, I mean, there's like movies now with AI characters in them. And it's like, it's kind of boring to watch, at least to me,
Hmm.
again, my opinion here, that there's no nuance, there's no subtle flaw, there's no nothing, and it's kind of just flat.
Flat.
And I
Hmm.
think perfectionism, when we look at it that way, is flat. It's like, why be perfect? Why have like like what does that even mean? And like who decides what is perfect and what isn't? It's like it's maddening.
It is. It is. So, yeah, so maybe we can go about this. I'm curious with your own experience being, in the perfectionistic world. No, I said going into the body. So when you consider something that you've done perfectly, how does that tend to feel to you in your body?
Tight. Like it's
Okay.
never finished. Like it's that like constant you know when like you're hungry and you just feel this
Mm,
like kind of feeling in like the your abdomen or like your solar plexus, and that's what perfectionism, like striving for that perfectionism feels like, because it's like it's never going to be satiated, it's never going to be enough. And I mean, how many times I've gone back to like try to, you know, make something even better than it was before. And then it never sees the light of day because I'm scrapped the whole thing. And I'm just like, you know what? It wasn't perfect. I mean, now I've definitely gotten away from that. And I've tried to
hmm.
completely shift into the other direction. But it sits in a very like, ugh feeling of like, that's just never going to be quenched.
Yes. And how telling is that, right? It's like this bucket with a hole in the bottom. You're like, if I just keep filling it
Yeah.
eventually, right, it will be satisfying. And in working with a client even this week, around something similar, that's what I was exploring. Like, okay, when you finish something, a presentation perfectly, how does that feel? And I think sometimes think or our
Mhm.
patterns come from a place of that's going to get me that feeling of satisfaction, fulfillment. When no, the reality is it's still maybe not enough, not quenched, tight, constricted, or
Yeah.
someone said maybe it's temporarily relieving, like putting a rock down. But is that what we're living for? Are we living for constant relief? Or that tightening? Or are we living for fulfillment? And so then to explore, well, what circumstances, what am I engaging in when I feel that sense of satisfaction and fulfillment?
How do you kind of approach that then with clients that are like maybe really type A, really wanting to like be perfect? Because again, like that was me for so many years, working in the fashion industry, working in entertainment, and now shifting into aviation and in the podcasting medium. It's it's something that I've had to really let go of, but it's a lot of mental talk. Like, are there ways that you go about this with your clients that kind of address this, or even with yourself that you can kind of
Mm-hmm.
impart?
Yeah, and this is what I love, like in the way I work now is so much of what they're experiencing, I'm experiencing along with them. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
we're learning together. We're going through a lot of the same, core wounds or symptoms together. And so yeah, it took me, and then even with others, to really go to the root of likely these behaviors and patterns started from an original place, which when I talk with people on what they're doing and the why of why they're doing it, often they'll say to avoid, right? So I'm trying to avoid feeling unworthy. I'm trying to avoid feeling inadequate. And so then I'm like, what's the reverse of that? If you're trying to avoid, then there's likely a longing, a desire. And for many, I think especially women, we've really suppressed our true, authentic desires. And
Mm-hmm.
so in the reverse of, I don't want to feel inadequate. So, oh, that must mean I want to feel adequate. And I'm like, really? Is that the true desire that you had, or did it somewhere kind of get rerouted
Oh,
from
interesting.
experiences? Yes. So like
Huh.
this particular client said she was criticized a lot by her dad. And so that led to inadequacy. So I must avoid inadequacy. So I need to feel adequate. Well, if I'm perfect, I'll get approval, I'll get validation, I'll feel adequate. And then I'm like, but where's your original desire? Because I truly
Mm.
believe we are here to live out our desire. And I know some like philosophies say the desire is the root of our suffering. Like, no, I think the root of our suffering is that we've come to believe that our desires aren't possible.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Or yeah, like where like desires are these unmet dreams and then we it's that
hmm
self-fulfilling prophecy or repeated cycle of not being able to attain it
hmm
because kind of maybe what you're saying and the way I'm understanding it is because we're in this kind of ineffective loop of like, well, if the reverse is adequacy, but that's actually not it, then you're never actually achieving where you want to go because
Bingo.
you're not like finding what the core is.
Yes. Yep.
So fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're not living authentically because you're so consumed by
Wow.
trying to be adequate or successful when that's not even at the heart of
Mm.
what you want.
Where do you think that perfectionism shows up the most? Like what areas of life?
Mm. Well, I would say immediate relationships. But
Mm,
to that, I say we have relationships with everything. So you could think, oh, my significant romantic relationships. But you also have relationship with your job. You have a relationship with money. You have a
mhm.
relationship with food. You have a relationship with social media. You have a relationship with yourself. You have a relationship with your environment.
Yeah.
And it might be different for each person. I work with people who have a lot of like health anxiety. So their perfectionism's around like fear, like the fear of being sick. And so they have a lot of
Mm.
physical symptoms. Whereas someone else might come in and be like, my relationship is falling apart or I've had attachment trauma. Um, so I really, that's a tough question because to me, it's so embedded in so many areas. It just usually a person has like one area that they perseverate on the most.
Mm. It's interesting that you brought up the health idea and like wanting I think people, yeah, like the hypochondriasm or
hmm
always trying to, figure out what's going on, therefore creating more issues because stress is in the body and that creates disease, which is disease and
Yeah.
something else fires up and that again, it's that loop. How do you break the loop?
Yes, and that's and that's so hard. Uh, and even in myself of acknowledging my own like humility, and for a period of time, I would say you break the loop by intervening. So I could go back
Mhm.
to what I said at the beginning and say, okay, maybe you break the loop by pausing, grounding, taking a breath, getting in stillness, asking a question, and seeing what comes.
Yeah.
There's also, though, the view, and this is where I get again, like the complexity and the dichotomies that we live in, because there's also the view that the loop is constantly open. So it actually never finishes. And
Huh.
so we're looking for closure. We're looking to heal a trauma that never had that closure. So we're repeating the loop with people, with jobs, with money in attempt to close it. And so instead of intervening, because it's already open, to that, I say, you get to close the loop yourself. The closure of the loop comes from within you.
I've never heard closure be talked about that way. That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Pun intended. Just kidding. That was not intended at all. Wow. Yeah, because like the spiral, the looping, the circles, but it's not. You're right. It's like we're trying to find the answers and we're
Mm-hmm.
constantly looking externally.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me to something that you said that a lot of the things that you experience with your clients are
Mm-hmm.
kind of like mirrors to maybe what you're
Mm-hmm.
going through. And I think that's also very fascinating from like a therapist clientele
Mm-hmm.
structure. And also like even just from my lens, like podcasting, like I'm kind of in
Yeah.
this new world and new space. And but then listening to other people that are in the same exact boat as me, but noticing that we're kind of all in this cohesive energy system where we're all
Mm-hmm.
experiencing the same core wounds, the same core things, we're having the same
Mm-hmm.
conversations, we're trying to dissect and pull apart. How do you think that either feeds that constant loop of perfectionism, or how do you think it actually breaks it and makes maybe heals it collectively?
I go back to again the humility piece of,
Mm-hmm.
there is no step by step instruction. It's a
Yeah.
lot of trial and error and really getting, I would say, like emotionally sober, because the emotions also like perpetuate it. So, in therapy, with therapy and a therapist and client, there's transference that's talked about, or counter transference, the things that are coming up that with your client that you start to relate to could be counter transference as a therapist. And that's concerning. Go seek supervision. And I
Mm,
don't look at it that way.
okay.
I look at it, it's coming up in me, but instead of it making it about me. And that's where I think the emotional sobriety, like the separation of, or my emotions tied in. Am I trying to help this person to feel better about myself?
Ooh. Ooh.
Yes. Or can I say, in that humbleness of like, I get what you're saying, and I don't have an answer, but we're bringing this wound, we're bringing this similar experience to the space between us. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where I believe the magic happens. When we take out the
Mm,
personalization of like, oh my gosh, as humans, we're all hurting each other. We're hurting the human race in some way, in our own
mhm,
egos, our own selfishness, our own resentment, our own fears. But we also all long for love. We long for belonging. We're
mhm.
terrified of being alone. Like at the crux of it, when we bring that in the space between us and then come from presence, that's where I think the voice changes. Because I notice for myself, I'm just talking more stream of consciousness versus what I've learned in a textbook or what I've memorized or what a theory told me.
Wow. That brings me to two other like really big points around this
Mm-hmm.
whole concept, which is self-betrayal and burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Always trying to raise the bar
Mm-hmm.
and how that sits in the body. And like, I hear this all the time that people try to start a business or, you know, dating, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to you find the perfect partner or the perfect partner, either, in a business or in life. And it just, the perfect word of like what's perfect for me or how I can make something seem a certain way for the outside lens does, and is that fulfilling or not? They're like, I feel like those two things kind of go hand in hand with the self-betrayal and the burnout, because on one end, if you're trying so hard to make something happen and it's a constant just reinforcement of that same cycle, you're going to burn out. Or
Yeah.
you're trying so hard to do something that just isn't aligned with you and your desire is wrong, therefore you're in a
Yeah.
self-betrayal.
Yep.
Like, what are your thoughts around those two separate but yet so linked ideas?
Yes. And that's where, again, just love these dichotomies. If you're going into life or job, relationship, often unconsciously to meet what you believe is the original desire, what you believe is the desire to be successful, to have a partner, because the partner means that I won't feel inadequate, right? Like it could be the same behavior. Oh, I'm having a partner because I believe in connection and intimacy and love and belonging. Not even I need, right? It's very
Yeah.
self-centered. But, oh, I'm going into this partnership for connection, intimacy, belonging, love. The other, right, the self-betrayal route is I'm going into this relationship because I feel unworthy. I don't like myself. I believe I'm unlovable. So I'm trying to prove that. And how do I prove that? I got to do it perfectly. And then burnout.
So relatable. Wow. I feel like you've just like, I don't know, rewired some brain patterns that I might have other people
Oh,
might have
oh, good.
like been living
Mm,
in the
yes.
past. Like the way that you just said that verbalized exactly what I was doing in past relationships. And
Hmm.
wow, that's so perfectly said. Perfectly
Thank
said.
you.
Oh my gosh.
Perfectly. And it's incredible because I did not plan to say that. And it honestly like was something that kind of came through our conversation. Like
Uh-huh.
I told you, like I had an idea about burnout really stemming from the core of self-betrayal, but about those two things of like what the desire being ignored, likely original desire being dismissed, that's really just come through like in the past 24 hours. And I don't think I've spoken it until
Yeah.
right now. So it's very fresh. And, and that's just from the openness, from a
Mhm.
trust. And that's where it does land perfectly.
And perfectly in that sort of messy middle, in that bell curve of
Hmm.
like discovering what actually you do bring to the table versus like someone trying to fill a lack that you might have instilled in you from whatever past that you may
Yes.
have.
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. And so to share, yes, this like bell curve piece, because so much of my life I have been, realizing, oh, I'm striving for amazement, which I would associate as like be extraordinary. Well, to be extraordinary, be like unique, be perfect. And I view that as one end of like this bell curve. And I thought, well, if I'm extraordinary, then I'll be loved, then I'll have everything that I want. I'll never be alone. Actually, like kind of look at it that way. If I'm extraordinary, how could I possibly be forgotten? So
Wow.
that was the one side. And then the other side of the bell curve is, could say the opposite of that is the boring, but even deeper, I think it's the people who get not lost. That's what I thought. The people on the outside of the bell curve are the ones that are lost and not getting the attention. And I want to serve those people.
Hmm.
The ones that are like more depressed, more in crisis, don't have money. I thought they're outside of the bell curve, but the realization was they're the ones that get the most attention
Yep.
because you're extraordinary, you're a genius, like, whoa, look at them. Or, oh my gosh, you're in crisis, you don't have a home, you don't have money, you need psychiatric, like inpatient, we're going to attend to you. So then the people in the middle are the average, and they're the ones that don't get necessarily the attention.
They're forgotten.
And they're forgotten because it's like, oh, everything's okay with them. So we don't need to worry about them. So I never wanted to be in the middle because I have, yes, this like fear and wound of I'll be forgotten. And now I'm like, what's wrong with being in the middle? What's wrong with the messy middle?
Ugh, that's so well said. The messy middle is it's like a concept that's coming out so much right now. And I love your tagline, your mess is your message. And mine is let's get messy, which is mental,
Yeah.
emotional, spiritual. And I think now talking about the messy middle, there's so much so much magic kind of in that, because
Mm-hmm.
in the mess, in the darkness, in everything that you go through in life, I feel like if everything is just perfect and la-di-da and happy, where are the lessons? Where is the growth? Where is the stuff that you are going to transform into, evolve into? If you don't, you know, hit rock bottom, sort of the top, find a coast, dip a little down, like
Mm-hmm.
there's no view. The view is the peaks and the valleys of life, and the
Mm-hmm.
that's the journey that we're all on. And I think we're always trying to reach the end goal. And I love like the process is the purpose, and it's not about the destination, it's about the journey,
Right.
and all these cliche things
Mm-hmm.
that we see. And but it's so true when you just dial it back and dial
Mm-hmm.
in and get quiet, because in the middle of the mess, that's where the magic is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we kind of lose sight of that when we see, people's peaks on social media, or, the finished products of something. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't see what really it took to get there. You didn't see
Mm-hmm.
the heartache, the pain, the tears, the long nights, the endless hours, the fights, the fallouts, the losing of the money, the making it back and losing it again. You didn't see all of it that went into what you're seeing as a perfect product now, or a perfect picture or semblance or home or family or life, because you're not privy to everyone's,
Mm-hmm.
journey. And that's okay. But that also, we have to remind ourselves, I think, constantly that there is a path, there is a mess, there is a way that it took them to get there, and maybe it was perfect, and okay, good for them, and that's
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But the comparison and the perfectionism culture, I think, is something that we need to really look at, because we will hit the burnout, and we will hit the self-abandonment and the self-betrayal if we
Oh,
don't.
yes. And it's cyclical because we often hear to respond to our burnout with like self-care, go get a massage, take a few days off, go on vacation, get a
Yeah.
reset. And like, there you go. That's going to be just the reset of like,
Yeah.
okay, I had like a few days off and now I'm back in it, because you're not tending to that original wound. And like feeling betrayal, which not the most don't say like that's where the burnout's coming from. We often blame the company, the organization,
Yeah,
the
totally.
system,
Hmm.
and maybe that contributes to the betrayal wound developing originally. But if it's already there, it's feeling then, but what does betrayal actually feel like? And is one willing to go into the dark underground of feeling that betrayal?
And a lot of us aren't wanting to go there. We want to
Mm-mm.
mask it, we want to cover it, we want to party, we want to drink, we want to have sex, we want to
Mm-hmm.
socialize, we want to go on vacation, we want to go shopping, we want to fill that void, that lack, that space, instead of addressing it. So
Yep.
that leads me to addressing the mess. So let's get messy,
Mm.
mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. What's one thing that you think listeners can do this week when that be better, be perfect voice kind of kicks in? And how do you think that we can kind of interrupt that loop? I mean,
Yeah.
you have addressed this a few times, but I want you to drive it home.
Yes, yes. And again, that repetition, because it's building a new pathway really for the brain. And again, like the brain is our mechanism for our thinking. And if our thinking though is part of contributing to the loop, and you can have these subconscious thoughts that are in the background that you don't even realize are kind of, the radio static kind of underneath your station. So you might want to first like I said, pause, breathe, ground, ask a new question. I think questions without knowing the answer are an opening to a new pathway, because we
Mm-hmm.
want certainty, we want clarity. So we're often trying to get an answer before we even ask a new question. So the question can be, what radio station am I on right now? Am I on the station of trying to be perfect, trying to control, trying to figure out, trying to avoid some sort of feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and don't try to answer it. because
Mm.
it's in the new open space that a new pathway, behavior, way of being develops. But if you try to answer it, you're going to be coming from that old programming, that old
Totally.
radio station. You got to
Yeah.
give it time to switch. And so this is something I love too. And I just heard this yesterday. I took a yin yoga class and the teacher said, we're going to let time move the energy. And I was like, whoa. And yin yoga is holding a yoga pose for, 3 to 5 minutes. And I used to love power yoga, go through the vinyasa, move, move, move. And then I also really love like restorative yoga. Never had much experience with yin. And so holding a posture in a stretch for 5 minutes is freaking like hard to not go into
Yeah.
the thinking, to be uncomfortable. But I really loved that idea of let time move the energy instead
Hmm.
of me trying to figure out how to move the energy or a professional, another person moving the energy.
Yeah. So the next one's emotionally, but you kind of addressed this, but I want
Ah,
to double click on it a little bit just to
yes.
address the mess. When that perfectionism drops away, what is the feeling that is sitting underneath that we are uncomfortable or afraid to feel?
Beautiful. Yeah, it kind of does transition nice into that, right? Because like mental being asked a new question, don't fill in the answer. So then you can go into the emotional.
Emotion. Yeah.
Yes. And two, to say for the mental, like you can journal, but not trying to answer the question, just having some of whatever is there to be like placed in writing. And so, yes, so like the emotional piece, right? Of if you're letting time move the energy, well, our
Mm.
emotions are energy in motion.
Mhm.
So, what emotion's going to come up? I mean, first, before you get deep, it's usually layered like an onion. You're going to unsettled, anxiety and fear.
Yeah.
That
We
will
don't want to
likely
feel
be
that.
the first. Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's sending the message, I'm in danger. I'm going to die. Right? It immediately goes into, if I'm not perfect, if I don't do this thing, if I don't control, if I don't keep myself safe, I am going to die. So it's the panic alarm.
Hmm.
And so fear, an acronym I like, is forgetting everything is all right.
Oh,
Forgetting, as I like these acronyms, it helps you remember. Yeah. So fear, forgetting
I haven't
everything
heard
is
that
all right.
one. I know
Yeah.
false evidence appearing real, but I haven't heard the other one.
That's a good one too. Yes. And I've
Yeah.
heard that one too. Yeah. So to feel the fear,
Hmm.
and and sometimes that can be too intense for people. Like it's like you said, we don't want to feel that. So we might go into avoidance. We might go into the typical behaviors that have been responses to fear. Fear is uncomfortable for me to to
Mm-hmm.
feel. So again, it's like it's practice. So if you go out of it because it's so unbearable, that's okay. And it's like, okay, next time I pause, okay, now there's fear. And then the onion, right? So what's underneath the fear is likely those feelings of unworthiness, loneliness, and then
Hmm.
the betrayal.
Mm.
And then with the betrayal, often grief. Because when you recognize that you've betrayed yourself, that's a grief. And I'll add anger in there too, because yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of emotions to kind of muck through. And
Yeah.
so lots of gentleness with
And
those.
necessity to kind of go through those and go through all of them. Like you can't just hold those in the body. That's so
Mm-mm.
unhealthy.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And spiritually, what would it look like for someone to really connect or reconnect with themselves and that part of themselves that was never truly broken?
Hmm. Yeah. And I would say and this has been my experience by moving through those feelings, the grief, the anger, the betrayal, the recognition and like big confrontation of like, oh, I'm doing this to myself,
Right.
not from a place of shame, but actually from ownership of like, well, then I have some agency
Hmm.
in doing this differently. And so through the betrayal is what brought me back to my desire. And I would say that's the spiritual connection. Like my desire exists because if I look, what's my desire? And what I also named connection, intimacy, love, belonging, not about me, but it
Right.
will be so fulfilling to be in those. And so I do sense a spiritual connection that those desires exist so I can bring them here on earth and share them.
I love that. I'm of the
Mhm.
same kind of school
Mm,
of spiritual thought and or realm in
yeah.
that for sure. So before I let you go, you have
Yes.
been writing poetry for a long time. Is there maybe like a snippet that, or something, I don't know, like open a book or a journal that you can just like read,
Hmm.
like maybe like a couple sentences? Maybe there's a message in that that we can kind of
Yeah. Oh,
leave on?
yes. Yes. Yeah. I have my journal. And so I'm curious which one I end up because my
Opening
journal's
up to.
yeah. There's some like journal entries and then there's poems. So I'm gonna read this one. So one thing I'll share with this one, not even this one, just in general in my poetry, to go back to like the process and the journey. I'm passionate about showing up myself on social media from the process. And so even my poetry is very process oriented. And I've had people say to me, like, Amanda, I read your poetry and I don't get it at all. Or
Mm.
it's very wordy. And and they're like, they said something about preferring poets that have a final product of their poem.
Oof. Yep.
And I'm like, sure, there's tons of poets that like you read what they say and it's like either short and to the point, or you get what they're trying to articulate, or you bring your own your own outcome from it. And that's where I was like, but that's just not what I feel called to be here for. Of my poems are not edited and they're messy and but they
They're not
lead me to,
perfect.
they're not perfect and they lead to realizations, at least for me. And so I'm like, maybe I'll share them and they'll be helpful to others, or
Totally.
others will be just as confused in the mess of it. But I didn't even realize that about my poetry until they said it. I was like, of course, my poetry fits right into like my messy social media page that just turned into like sharing my life. And so,
Mm.
but yes, I will read this one. Okay. Um, this one's sad. I wrote this crying, so I forgot about that
Okay.
till now. Okay. Unforgettable. I wrap my fingers around memories, the ache of a heart submerged underwater, skeptical of amnesia engraved in the back of my eyelids, like our initials carved in a tree trunk. I'll love you forever. The first moment I saw you, walking down the hallway, 2003. We were always a mix CD, a playlist, a concert, two young, naive, almost thieves, stealing moments. Please don't let this one slip away. Long hair covers your face, a white t-shirt. I'll remember you this way. Before I knew you, before I could really see 2020, because I don't want to open my eyes and no longer hold the simpler time. What is actually in front of me is a stranger, a discolored, disoriented mirror. I'm fond of your talent, the way you move your fingers on the strings. Mine, the way I hold a pen, so the heart goes on. We must go on. So if I slowly lift my fingers off, will my palms still feel warm, or will the lines wail of betrayal? That hurts, that pierces. How will I remember? Show me what's real, what's to celebrate, what's to memorialize, what to keep, what to forget.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
I want
You're
to leave
welcome.
it there for people to digest.
Mm.
And where can people find you, Amanda?
Thank you. Yes. So I am on social media. I use Instagram the most. So I'm at Amanda on the Flip. And then my website is www.youamazeme.org. You can find on my website access to my podcast. That's on YouTube and Spotify. So it's probably easiest to go to the website and just click on those links and you can get me there.
Amazing. And that will all be linked in the show notes. And you guys know where to find me at _insideout.podcast on Instagram, also on TikTok and Substack. You guys take a minute. That was a lot of conversation about perfectionism, and maybe you're having conversations in your own life about this and with your friends. Is there someone that you want to share this message with? Maybe send this podcast to them. There's a lot in here and it's not for everyone, but it might be for you or the person you're thinking about. So thank you so much for giving us your Wednesday, and we'll see you next week. Bye.